I'd like to file a hurt feelings report. Hurt feelings report is something that when I was in the military, we always joked about. We'd pull out our stress card that we never actually had. It was something that we thought of was really great. It was basically someone hurt our feelings and it wasn't fair and we wanted a timeout. Nothing ever existed like that for me. It might exist today, but it never existed for me. But we always wanted it. We always wanted it when a drill sergeant or a first sergeant or an officer said something really, really stupid or really, really hurtful or really, really mean. Now, we knew why they were doing it. One, because they were old, crankety old men, and most of the time men, some women. Or two, they were trying to teach us a lesson, and the lesson was horrible, and we hated it, and it sucked. And now that I'm out of there and I've experienced the world a little bit, most of the time there's a reason for it. But the fun part of all that, of course, is the Hurts Feeling Report is what the world lives off of today. As a Gen Xer, I always complained about my parents, not understanding where I'm coming from, what I'm going through, what my lifestyle was. They just didn't get it. My parents grew up in the 60s, late 50s, early 60s. They had me in the early 70s, me and my sisters. Okay, so they were in that free love and hippie stage. Got it. My parents, they were great people, but they had a different philosophy on what was important in life. From the first election I remember being alive for, remembering, visually seeing, to the day my mother died, she lived a lifestyle where she lived out her beliefs and she didn't care about my feelings and she cared more about getting her point across. That can teach a child one of two things. Either one, if you want to have feelings, you need to stand up for them and beat down anybody else who disagrees with you. Or two, you shut up and you don't say anything and you repress it all in, you hold it all in until it, smothers you and kills you. My problem, of course, was I tried to do both. Growing up in my household, I decided to get into a lot of things that were not healthy for me to get rid of a lot of the stress and anxiety I was doing. And I was old enough to do stupid things. I started doing stupid things. And I was doing that to hide my feelings, to repress them down, to beat them down, to get away from the situation. Then, of course, I got a little older and then in high school. Yeah, I did a lot of stuff in junior high and before. When I got into high school, how I got away from the situation is I moved out of my house. I literally couch hopped for 4 years to get away from the situation I was living in. Again, not healthy, but it was the only option I could think of. Then I got married, had kids. And of course, I did the same thing that every parent does. I'm going to raise my kids differently. I'm going to do it this way. My parents didn't know what the heck they were doing. They were horrible. Blah, 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 blah. Right? Right. Of course. I have kids. I'm a Gen Xer. My kids are not Gen Xers, of course. They're born in the 90s and early 2000s. And now when I talk to them, they kind of give me the same tude. The difference is I don't think most of them repress their feelings. They pretty much tell me outright how they feel. The problem, of course, is that I've encouraged them to speak their mind, is they have gone to the fact of their feelings are right and my feelings are wrong. And or their feelings are facts and my feelings aren't facts. Feelings aren't facts. Okay? It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter who you talk to. What you feel isn't always a fact. I can feel like, someone is oppressing me because I can only buy, a Whopper at 10:30, not at 10 a.m. I can feel like that's oppression. Now most people be like, that's not oppression. That's just, that's convenience. Well, I feel oppressed. If I say I'm oppressed, it doesn't mean I'm oppressed. I can feel whatever I want. Doesn't make it true. I can feel like people going to my house going, you have too many Christmas lights, or you don't have enough Christmas lights. That can hurt my feelings, but it doesn't make it fact. I can hurt my children's feelings. I can hurt other people's feelings, but it's their choice if I hurt their feelings. I can say whatever I want. How will they respond to it is the question. I grew up in a household where our feelings were never deemed as fact. My mother was very strong-willed, and how I dealt with it is I repressed it all. I repressed it all until I got older. That's when I started, of course, spurting off. And a lot of people tell me now that I kind of speak too bluntly, too absurdly loudly, too forcefully, and they know me because of that. A lot of people say, that's Richard, that's what he does, that's just who he is. And I think back to myself before I moved out, before I got married, before I had kids, I wasn't like that. I kept myself quiet. I kept myself quiet because I didn't want to deal with the drama of fighting for what I thought was right, fighting for my feelings to be heard. I repressed my feelings. And that's the world we live in today. So today, every day, when you go online, you go on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X, anywhere you go, the news, basically every network, maybe one network out of 6 doesn't have it. There's people on there talking about how they believe this or this. They believe, the next president's going to be a tyrant who takes down democracy and kills babies and destroys the world and causes World War III. And then you have other people saying he's going to save America, bring back democracy, and equal the playing field for all. Neither one of them have any facts to back up those feelings. But if you watch them and you listen to them, they think they do. They are very prominent in their beliefs. You have people who are saying the Department of Education is going to be closed, and because it's closed, all teachers are going to be fired, all colleges are going to be closed. If a teacher teaches gender studies, they're going to be let go. There's going to be no income for it. It's crazy to think that we as a society have become so focused on what the government is giving us, or what the government is handing to us, or what the government is telling us is real, that we can't read and learn information on our own. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the president coming into office. He's not my biggest, happy-go-lucky person, okay? I'm not one of those bang the drum person. He was already president for 4 years. A lot of the things people are scared of that he's going to do, he didn't do before. So could he do it this time? Absolutely. Will he? No. What's going to probably happen is there's going to be things that are cut. There's going to be things that are, slimmed down. There's going to be things that are changed. Then people in 2 years are going to hate it. Congress is going to be voted out. The House is going to go back to the Democrats. The Senate is going to go back to the Democrats. In 4 years, the presidency is going to go back to the Democrats. And then they're going to bring back all the programs that they just got rid of. Because that's what we do. President Trump, when he was president the first time, had this Stay in Mexico plan. And after a couple of years, Biden got rid of the Stay in Mexico plan. And now Trump's going to get put back into place the Stay in Mexico plan. And then in 4 years, if this doesn't work, guess what's going to happen? The next person is going to put back in. They're just going to go back and forth. We are in such a negative, angry, your feelings aren't right, mine are world right now, that no policy, no person, no thing can actually get anything done. We can't agree on anything. We can't agree. I don't even think we could agree on, if the world is flat or round. I don't think we can agree on should soldiers get health care. We can't agree on anything. And that's because if one person who makes a plan that sounds good to us comes out as a party that we're not part of. So say someone is for healthy eating, taking out pharmaceutical companies off of television, making it a mandate for companies to post what's in their ingredients in their food. if they're on one side of the aisle, we love their ideas, great philosophy. If they switch aisles, they're heathenistic. They're going to kill us all. They're horrible people. Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat. She was a veteran. She spent time in the service. She spent time in the Congress. She served our country as a Democrat. She switched sides. Everyone loved her as a Democrat. Hillary Clinton loved her. Everybody loved her as a Democrat. Then she switched sides. As soon as she switched sides to the Republican side, they started calling her a Russian spy. A Russian spy. So you have somebody who was in the service, who had top secret clearance, who was in the Congress with clearance, who was tagged as the next big Democratic ticket item. She switched to the Republican side. Now she's a Russian spy. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people look at others and they judge them by who they follow or what side of the aisle they're on. Elon Musk makes electric cars. He's a big proponent of electric vehicles. He's a big proponent of trimming the fat, not spending too much money on garbage. And everyone was all for him. Or more people were all for him. And then he backed Trump and bought Twitter. Once he bought Twitter, once he backed Trump, all of a sudden, he's more dangerous than Trump is to America. A South African who cannot be president due to our Constitution, who cannot hold certain offices in our country, is more dangerous than the President of the United States. Why? Because he owns Twitter/X. That seems kind of stupid. Okay? Now, I care about my children's feelings. I care about other people's children's feelings. I care about other people's feelings. But their feelings cannot override the facts that are going on in the world. Fact one, our country is broken. Not only is it broken, it's broken really, really bad. Like Andrew Jackson bad. We cannot stand each other to the point of families are not visiting families over Thanksgiving because of who they voted for. That is idiotic, asinine, immature. If I do not invite my daughter, who definitely did not vote the way I voted, if I don't say, hey, I'm good, come over for dinner. I don't care if she comes for dinner. She is. I mean, my grandson is. And my other daughter was invited, who definitely didn't vote that way either. If I go to them and say, hey, you can't come to dinner because you voted for Kamala, that would be hateful and ignorant. And I think it's the same way if you say, hey, you voted for Trump, I'm not coming over for dinner. It's stupid. And, I know I keep saying the word stupid. Okay. It's immature and irresponsible. As Americans, as human beings, we're allowed to disagree on things. People always say, well, the president has so much power. They have something called the executive order, which Congress has the right and the Supreme Court has the right to change. Now, the right wing, red people, Republicans control the House and the Senate, and they have a majority in the Supreme Court. It is not the first time, and it will not be the last time, that an executive order has been overruled by the party that made it. There are enough Republicans who would vote against Trump's executive orders that they deemed it was not good for them. Just like there was Democrats who voted against Biden's executive orders because they wanted to be reelected. And that's another issue. We keep hearing about we need to have people in there who have longevity, who have experience. Our government was not set up for career politicians to be in office. We should not have people like Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi in office for 20, 30, 40 years. George Washington left the office of the presidency after 2 terms. It was a standard bearer for the president until, of course, FDR. And then after that, it became the rule. Okay? But we have House members, Senate members who've been in there. There's a senator from our state, Susan Collins, who said, I'm going to run for this amount of time, then I'm going to stop because it shouldn't be a lifetime goal. She's surpassed that, I think, by like 20 years already, or 18 years. She just keeps running. She originally said, I'm not going to do that. Then she kept doing it. Why? Probably money. Let's be honest, money and power. I like Susan Collins. She's not a horrible person, but that's what she said. And that's, I think, where the anger and vitriol for each other comes from, is from people like that. So we have companies, everyone from Johnson & Johnson to Merck to Pfizer to the tobacco company to the food companies, Kellogg's, to companies like BlackRock, to companies like Vanguard, to, Bayer Aspirin, which now is part of Monsanto. These companies have things called lobbyists. And the lobbyists go to the Congress, they go to the House, they go to the Senate, they go to the president, they go to TV networks who they pay for advertising for, and they say, hey, we want this to be important. Can you make sure this is important? It used to be, and I know I'm showing my age, it used to be that we as Americans voted on issues that we studied, that we understood, and we voted on laws that were simple and just. It was a simple law. Now, when you read the laws they write, there are 900 pages and there's 47 added things on there. So if anyone doesn't like one of the things and they vote against it, well, they voted against soldier spending. Well, there was also money in there for this, and this that I can't do. Well, so you don't care about soldiers. That's not what I said. A lot of countries and even states have something called a line item veto. The president, the person who signs the bill into law, can veto certain sections of the bill. They can say, okay, keep in the funding for soldiers, but take out the funding for Ukraine. Or keep in the funding for soldiers, but take out the funding for Israel and Gaza. Or Turkey. Or anywhere else you want to talk about. We give money to everybody. So, it's equal opportunity takeout. Okay? But we don't do that. Instead, the bills are packed with so much pork, which is fat. It's a term they use basically to say there's extra stuff in there. It's like that little extra bacon on the side or the extra pork rinds or the extra whatever you want to say. Congress people, when they write these bills. If they just wrote, hey, let's give funding to the VA. We're going to give them this much money. One bill, one writing, it'd probably be like 10 pages. Instead, it's 900 because they added everything else in. Or let's do border security and do a border entry like almost every other country on the planet has. Instead, they do the border security with 900 extra pages on it. So instead of doing a 20-page bill, they do a 900-page bill. And then if you vote against it, well, you tell us you care about border security, but you voted against it. Well, I voted against all this. So it makes it challenging. As Americans, we're expected to know what our lawmakers are voting on. But sometimes, and they've said this, some Congress people literally said, I didn't read the whole bill that I voted for because I didn't have time and because it was so big. They had to go off of other people's opinions who read the bill. I don't know about you, but, if you buy a house, you rent an apartment, you rent a storage unit, you buy a car, student loans, which people probably don't, they should. You read everything. You read all the fine print. What our Congress people, what our senators, what our congressmen, House members, what our president probably doesn't read it at all. What they're saying is, we don't have time to read it, or it's so big, it's not worth reading. When did we become a country that we are so filled up with stupid, with insanity, that the people who write the laws can't even have time to read the laws? We haven't passed a real budget in forever. Why? Because they can't agree on a budget. Why? the last budget bill was so large, they didn't have time to even look at it before they had to vote on it, so the government didn't get shut down. But when you bring this up to certain people, old or young, they always tell you, this person's the reason why, or this person's the reason why. And you try to say, well, why do you think that? Well, I read this, or I saw this, or I watched a video about this, or this person told me this, or I watched the news. I don't think there is any news left that's fair, that's honest. I think Fox calls themselves fair and balanced. They're not. They're more right side than left. Then you have other sites, that are definitely more left than right. You have shows like The View that they're angry, unfortunately, angry ladies, angry millionaires telling poor people how they should think. And they do it while saying that Whoopi Goldberg, worth $60 million, went on the air and said she was a working class stiff too. That's why she can't leave America. She's worth $60 million. She can leave. She's not a working stiff. I've been out of work now for 3 weeks due to a head injury. And I'm trying to make sure that I can afford Christmas. And I have Whoopi Goldberg, who makes has $60 million and makes $4 or $5 million a year hosting a show. She's telling me that she's just like me. She's not just like me. Okay. But there are people out there that listen to people like Whoopi, listen to people like Hannity, Tucker Carlson, Bill O'Reilly, Rachel Maddow, whatever the heck her last name is, Jimmy Fallon, Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel. They listen to these people and they believe what they say is 100% fact. There's no gray area. They must be speaking it because they're on TV. So they couldn't lie, because then there'd be, you can't lie if you're a news person. But these guys aren't news people anymore. Brian Williams, who worked for the NBC News late night, he was the 6:30 host, that, big job, big chair, got fired for like a hot minute. Why? Because he lied about being in a helicopter that got shot at in Afghanistan. He lied about it. Now, you would think, okay, got fired, never working again. You can't lie about that as a news host. He lied about it. Then he got transferred to NBC's cable station instead. Shortly after, I think it was like a couple months. So basically he was suspended and given his job back, but on a different channel. That's not integrity. That's, hey, we have a big contract. We have to pay them. So why not at least get our money's worth? That's crazy. But then you have people like Gina, I can't even remember her last name, but basically she played on The Mandalorian. She played on a few other shows, and she got fired from Disney. Why? Because she's a Republican and she put out a tweet that was right-leaning. Was it completely correct? No. But it is just as correct as Brian Williams' live on air recollection. But he was more left-leaning, got a job. She was more right-leaning, and the network or the company she worked with was more left-leaning, so they got rid of her. They just made her disappear. And that happens. It happens with lots of actors nowadays. If they decide to stand up for their faith, or they decide to stand up for their political beliefs, they're ostracized one way or the other. Right now, the right wing is being ostracized more than the left. Now, after the election, maybe it'll go the other way. Not sure. You have actresses like Rachel Zellweger, I think it's Rachel, who is supposed to be playing Snow White in a Disney movie. She comes out last year and says she hates the story of Snow White. It's misogynistic. It's horrible. Da, da, da. Now, she works for Disney. She's, a big star. They don't do anything about it. They don't do a thing. Then she comes out after the election and she basically tweets, which is what gets most people in trouble, and says something very negative. She pulls the tweet and apologizes. Why? Because Disney looked at the room and said, 77 million people, well, a lot of these people have kids who probably will be going to Disney movies, don't voted for Trump. What you said might make them think, I don't want to go see your movie and we need to make money. So she pulls the tweet. We're not allowed to have our feelings overwhelm our facts, but we still do. Twitter is a cesspool. Elon Musk owns it. I can say it. X/Twitter is where people spout off their feelings. Unfortunately, when people read their Twitters of other people, they believe those tweets, those feelings are facts. People believe what is put on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. If the person looks official or sounds official, then it's fact. It's not fact. Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, all are on the right side. What they say, do I agree with all of it? No. Is some of it kind of crazy? Absolutely. But I understand what they're saying is towards the people that mostly follow them to keep their followers engaged. It's about keeping followers, keeping streams, keeping downloads. I understand that. I don't take what they say as, gospel truth or in irrefutable truth. There is no such thing. Everybody who speaks has an agenda. Facts are not feelings. You cannot tell me you cannot be around me, or you won't visit me, or you won't come around, or I'm going to report you because you hurt my feelings. I lost a teaching job, or I got excused from a teaching job, not because I was a bad teacher. Part of the reason I got in trouble as a teacher is because I told a student a fact and I hurt their feelings. I have done the same lesson for years. I taught the same lesson, and one student out of 120 had hurt feelings. And the school told me I needed to apologize. And I said, I can't apologize for facts. And when I didn't, I was suspended. Then after that, I was let go. I was let go because I spoke facts over feelings. And here's the fact to end the show. I said, the victors of war write history. And at the end of World War II, if Hitler and Japan would have won, what Hitler did to the Jews would not be looked at in the negative connotation that it is today. Hitler would not be an evil, evil man if Hitler would have won the war, because history would have rewritten the books. When I was in school, the internment camps the Japanese were put in, yes, they're not as bad as the concentration camps of the Jews. I'm not saying they weren't. Those internment camps were not taught. They were not taught because we won the war. The Americans won the war. The Allies won the war. And the parts that we did that were negative were not brought up. It was not brought up because we didn't want to make ourselves look bad. The Trail of Tears, what we did to the Native Americans or the Americans that were here before us, the Mongolians that came over the bridge. Okay, I don't like calling them Native Americans. Not anything against them. They came here just like we did, just a different way. They walked here. I said, I taught about how we destroyed land. We took it. It wasn't taught that way when I went to school because that was not part of history. I taught that we thought we were doing the right thing because we wanted to expand and make our country great. We wanted to make ourselves the land of freedom, except for we took other people's freedoms away. I also taught that slaves are sold in Africa by other Africans. They are captured by other tribes. They were captured by Asians. And they were sold to the white slave traders. But a black man or a black African selling another black African, you can't blame. It's a supply and demand thing. If you give the supply, the demand will be there. Now, am I pro-slavery? Absolutely not. Did I think it was an abhorrent Absolutely reprehensible thing? Yes. Is there more slavery today than there was in 1865? 100%. Do we care as much? No. The device I'm recording on right now was probably made by child labor. But we're okay with it. We're okay with it because we don't see it. We don't see in China the slaves they use, the concentration camps that they have Muslims put in. I'm not even a Muslim. They should not be putting anyone in any religious group, any group in general, in camps. They should not be enslaving anybody, child, women, men, anybody should not be slaves. Everybody should be treated equally as a human being. I don't care the color of your skin. I don't care what God you worship. I don't care if you worship a God. I don't care if you worship a tree. I don't care if you're a man, woman, child, or anything in between. No one should be kept against their will to do things they don't or can't do. Kids should not be building cell phones. Kids should not be building computers. Slave labor should not be building machinery or parts or things for Walmart or Target. Okay? The way I teach, the way I live my life is under facts, and I hurt people's feelings. I know I've hurt my kids' feelings by the people I vote for, by the things I say, by the things I do. I hurt their feelings. This isn't because I don't love them. It isn't because I disagree with them and I think that they're evil people. It isn't because I think, I'm right and they're wrong. 97% of the things I say is fact. My feelings get into it too, because I'm a human being and we live that way. We live with our feelings and the facts sometimes get skewed. I know that. As a teacher, I did my best, but I also taught feelings. On January 7th, not the 6th because it was happening, on the 7th, I had to go to class and teach a history class, an American history class. Like I probably stated before, all I told my students were there was 100,000 people there. A couple thousand of them were dumb, irresponsible, and they should be put in jail. Our government was set up for peaceful protest, not for violence, anger, and destruction. You can be pissed off. You can be upset. But once you lay hands or break property, it's no longer a peaceful protest. It's no longer a peaceful assembly. It's violence. And violence is never the answer to get your point across. No one ever said, hey, I'm going to win this argument by punching you to death. That's not how you win an argument. The last time that worked was 1945, and we had to drop 2 hydrogen bombs in Japan. We should not be dropping hydrogen bombs on each other to win an argument. That's not how this works. So think about it this week. Are you having feelings? Is someone's facts hurting your feelings? And how do you fix it? Do you look at it and go, you know what? I get it. I don't agree with you, but I get it. I see what you're saying. I'm seeing what you're saying. I understand. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. I think you're wrong, but I get it. Because that's what I have to say every day to the people in my life who don't see things the way I see it. And if I can do it as a stubborn old Gen Xer, I think you can too. Till next time, have a good week.